This album didn't just end XTC's touring career, it nearly ended the band. Welcome to my last video of 2025. In 1982, XTC released English Settlement, a double album that sounds pastoral and calm on the surface, but underneath it's full of anxiety, political anger, and a man quietly coming apart. This video is about English Settlement, the songs, the themes, and the pressure building inside XTC, especially for Andy Partridge, right as the band was reaching a new level of success. XTC had already survived punk, new wave, and several lineup changes by the early 80s. They were no longer just the fast, twitchy band behind Making Plans for Nigel. Their songwriting was getting sharper, more British, more pointed, and English Settlement is the album where all of that collided. It came out in February 1982 as a double album, which is a bold move for a band who is still labeled as new wave. But this isn't indulgent. It's restless. This album feels like a long walk through the English countryside, while all the time your brain just won't shut off. The big theme running through this album is England itself. Pastoral imagery mixed with frustration, class tension, and quiet rage at authority. Andy Partridge once said that he was obsessed with the idea of little men crushed by big systems. And you can hear that in every track. The album opens with Runaways, which immediately sets the tone. Driving, nervous, and slightly panicked. It's about kids fleeing bad homes. But it also feels like a wider statement. Escape as survival. The energy's tense, like the band itself is trying to outrun something. Then you get Ball and Chain, which sounds kind of peppy and jaunty until you listen closely. It's about marriage, obligation, and emotional weight. This is classic XTC. Bright music carrying uncomfortable truths, like being handed the worst news wrapped in pretty paper. Senses Working Overtime is the hit, and it deserves the title. It's joyful and frantic. At the same time, built on claps, chants, and a melody that doesn't sit still. Lyrically, it's about sensory overload, which I can particularly resonate with. Everything coming in at once, no filter, which in hindsight feels uncomfortably close to home for Andy Partridge. It's pop, but it's pop that makes you feel like your brain's on fire. As the album unfolds, the songs get more and more openly political. No Thugs in Our House tells a darkly ironic story about denial and violence. Melt the Guns is exactly what it sounds like. Direct, angry, and completely out of step with the polite image often associated with English pop music. This isn't protest music with a raised fist. This is protest music. What makes English Settlement work is how grounded it feels. There's a lot of acoustic guitar, space, and air in these songs. You can hear birds, fields, villages, but none of it's nostalgic. It's England as a place people live, struggle, and feel trapped in. And while the album sounds confident, what was happening behind the scenes is the opposite. By 1982, XTC was touring constantly. Andy Partridge was already dealing with severe anxiety, panic attacks, and a growing stage fright. He was self-medicating, pushing himself, and trying to function in a system that did not slow down for anything. The breaking point came during a show in Paris. Andy took off his guitar mid-song, then left the stage and collapsed. He later described it as suffering a nervous breakdown. That moment effectively ended XTC's career as a touring band. They would never perform live again in a traditional sense. This is the central tension of English Settlement. A band hitting creative maturity while their frontman is burning out spectacularly. The album isn't about a breakdown, but it's made by someone right on the edge of one. That's why it feels so charged. After English Settlement, XTC retreated into the studio. No more touring, no more pretending they were a normal rock band. And that decision changed everything. Their later albums, Mummer, Skylarking, Oranges and Lemons, and their Dukes of Stratosphere project wouldn't exist without this moment. The studio became a safe place, a controlled environment where Andy Partridge could work without risking panic attacks. And the influence of English Settlement quietly reached outwards. You can hear XTC's DNA in bands like Blur, especially in their England-obsessed phase. You hear it in Radiohead's ability to make anxiety sound beautiful. You hear it in Talking Heads' art pop, in Squeeze's soft storytelling, and in later indie bands who learned that you could be clever without being cold. XTC showed that pop music could be literate, political, anxious, and still catchy. They made space for bands who didn't fit the macho rock mold, who cared about words, textures, and emotional honesty. English Settlement isn't always an easy listen. It's long, restless. It doesn't resolve neatly, but that's the point. It captures a band and a person at a moment where holding it together took everything they had. It's not the sound of collapse. It's the sound right before collapse. And maybe that's why it still resonates, because so much of it is about trying to stay upright in a world that keeps speeding up. If this album means anything to you, let me know which song in the comments. The image on the cover is the Chalk Horse in Uffington, which is close to XTC's hometown of Swindon.
It's a sort of a hill carving.
They carved out this huge horse, took out the soil and exposed the chalk and rock underneath. And it's kind of like a local flag or a local badge. And we thought it meant a lot to us personally, and it's a really nice symbol.
If you have any suggestions about LPs that you'd like for me to cover, please leave it in the comments. There are some cool links in the description below, so please check those out. If you enjoy my content, please consider liking and subscribing. It doesn't cost anything, and you've helped grow my channel, and I really appreciate it. Thanks for sticking with me this year and helping me grow my channel. I will see you in the next one. Next year. Happy 2026.